Good morning and welcome to On the Money right here on WDBO. My name is Josh Barber. Today, joined by the wonderful people at Certified Financial Group, the people who are planning your financial future. Joining us today, we have Wynn Smith and Joe Bert, certified financial planners with the Certified Financial Group. And you know by now, for more than 30 years, professionals at Certified Financial Group have been answering your questions every week here on WDBO on the Money.
Josh, good to be with you. As you said in the intro, we are here, been here now for almost 40 years on the radio here with WDBO, here to take our listeners' questions. This is not a 1-hour infomercial. This is a live radio broadcast. You know, I was thinking about the intro that we do and how we talk about we've been doing this and so on and so forth. As far as I know, we are the only show that really takes calls. Every other program, you know, it's in 1 hour, as I said, infomercial, and which is fine. But we are here to help our listeners answer questions, dilemmas that you might be facing regarding your personal finances, the things that Wynn and I and the 15 other certified financial planners deal with day in and day out, providing guidance to our clients, getting them to and through their retirement years for a fee, working as fiduciaries as we have been as certified financial planners. But on Saturday morning, we are here for you absolutely free. So if there's anything on your mind regarding your personal finances, things you may have heard, things you don't understand, concerns that you have, things your brother-in-law may have told you that just don't sound right, we are here to clear up that mind fog, the financial mind fog. So once again, if there's anything on your mind, the good news for you is that the lines are absolutely wide open. And all you have to do is pick up the phone and dial these messages.
And those numbers are 844-580-9326. That's 844-580-WDBO, or utilize the open mic feature in the WDBO app. You can also call Dave Balakrishnan off the air at 407-869-9800.
And today's topic is Wynn.
Financial Ozempic. You can never be too rich or too thin.
Financial Ozempic. That's the stuff that you use for weight loss and diabetes control and so forth, huh?
That is correct.
All right, so tell me how it relates to what we do.
Yeah, and it's in the news a lot. First of all, the saying, you can never be too rich or too thin. There's, have you heard that before, Joe?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's been attributed to Coco Chanel, but that's actually not true. It's actually Wallis Simpson, who was the Duchess of Windsor, actually came up with that saying. Now, I will say this: I don't necessarily agree with that. You can never be too rich or too thin, because this saying came back in the 1940s, and I think in the 1940s we would never have said someone was anorexic. I don't think we had that concept then.
Mm-hmm.
And then in economics, there's a concept of diminished utility, which basically means the more you have of something, the less value it has to you, and that includes money.
That is true.
And I think that with what's kind of going on in the news with the Epstein files, if you think that you can do what you want to whomever you want, that's probably a sign that you're too rich. But anyway, let's go with the concept that most people would probably like to lose a few pounds or have a little bit more money. And as you know, topics, we'll come up. I kind of come up with things that I see are happening to me, or things like that. And you're absolutely right. I had a friend of mine who he was pre-diabetic, and the doctor put him on Ozempic and got his A1C down, and he lost 20 pounds. And then I've also started seeing in the news, like certain celebrities, they have a thing now called Ozempic face. I don't know if you've heard of that, Joe.
No, I haven't, but I've seen it.
Where you lose so much weight,
right.
You kind of have that hollow look
like
and
yourself,
Ozempic hands. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the Ozempic part. And the financial part, a lot of the planners here are involved in that behavioral finance training class.
Yes.
And there's a concept in psychology. It's called friction. So what can you do to eliminate the friction of something that you want to do? Well, Ozempic eliminates that friction by reducing your cravings and your appetite. And when you look at whether we're losing weight or we're creating wealth, it's all about the gap. So it's the gap between the calories you take in, the calories you burn, and it's the gap between the money coming in and the money flowing out.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Okay. So what can we do to reduce the friction to create a bigger gap in our financial lives?
Tell me.
So one of the things which, and I still see this, and it doesn't matter where people are in their financial lives, whether they're in the wealth accumulation phase or the decumulation phase, I rarely ever run across folks who are tracking the money that's flowing through their hands. They don't have a budget. They're not tracking that cash flow.
Not a conscious effort to monitor it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that can be a very frictionless way to manage that. I mean, Mint was a very popular budgeting, cash flow tracking that was free, came out by Intuit, but they've since done away with it. But there's a lot of budgeting, cash flow tracking software programs out there. Most credit cards will categorize your things. The financial planning software we use here at Certified Financial Group, we have that capability. It uses artificial intelligence that tracks all your spending and categorizes them to help you to create a budget. So that's the first thing, is just to be aware. I mean, just like if you want to lose weight, the first thing to be aware of is how active you are and how much are you eating.
There you go. Keep track of the calories.
Exactly.
All right.
And then there's a lot of other things that we can do too. Is one of the other big things is like pay yourself first, right? Set up those financial goals, and then go ahead and allocate the money to those goals on a regular basis.
That is by far and away, I think, the number one issue that needs to be instilled into every teenager's, young adult's mind. Because as we know, if you don't pay yourself first, send that money on ahead, it will never be there. And you'll wake up at 65 years old staring at retirement and looking at Social Security and wondering how you're going to make it through the next 30 years.
That's right.
And time is a great asset. The eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. And if you get it working for you younger, it makes a huge, huge difference. The problem is most of us don't realize that until we're in our 40s or 50s or staring down the barrel of retirement and looking back and said, gee, I wish I'd have known that.
Yes.
So go ahead with where you're going. I kind of sidetracked.
Yeah, no. You hear that every day. I wish I'd learned this.
Right.
I wish somebody told me this, 20 years ago or X number of years ago. But, even that, though, Joe, is becoming more frictionless. I mean, with automatic transfers. I mean, you can set up, you can set up anything, any banking credit union account. You can have money going into your savings or going into an investment account. A lot of people have access to retirement plans at work, 401ks, 403bs. That money goes in there. You don't miss it.
Well, as we said time and time again, that's your silver bullet if you're trying to work for retirement, is to use the retirement plan at work to its maximum. And if you don't have that as a minimum, set up an IRA and get that going. And you're right. If you do it where you don't see it, you don't touch, you don't have to write the check to make that deposit, it's less friction.
Yeah. And I like this concept of friction because it doesn't get into like discipline and, it's just a kind of a nice.
Make it easy.
Yeah, make it easy.
Slick.
Yeah, slick. That's a good. Yeah, I like that.
Smooth. How about smooth? Smooth is probably better.
Yeah. So, and then there's some other things you can do too. Is set up your credit card for like spending alerts. Mm-hmm. If you got you can. Most credit cards will allow you to put in like an amount, and if you spend more than that amount, then you get a text message. Again, it dings your phone. Just makes you aware. A lot of this is just awareness. In fact, most of this is just awareness.
Right. Or if you're about to plunge off the end of the mountain because you're spending too much money, it gives you a heads up. Because the last thing you want to do, as we said time and time again, is start using that as a credit card because you've overspent.
Exactly.
And that is the way to downward spiral that's difficult to recover from.
Yeah, and this is kind of off topic too, Joe. But I don't know if you've noticed, they've enhanced the things that you can tap into your 401k without a penalty for. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well,
making that more like a savings account than a long-term.
Yeah, I've seen that. In fact, the withdrawals are up. I've seen the studies that have just been released that more and more people are tapping into their retirement plans because they're being stretched. Either they lost their job or the cost of living is getting to them and whatever. But it's at least they have that.
That's true.
How many people that weren't putting some money into that retirement plan don't have that?
That's right.
So,
Yep. So and then there's a couple other things. You can have like just default rules. So like a good one there is, before you make a major purchase, sleep on it. Or before you, think twice before you make that impulse buy or you go shopping, or just have some rules in place to kind of slow down that process to determine whether it's a need or a want. Then it's a lot of people don't do that. Think about impulse buys and think about when you go to the grocery store there at the checkout counters, all those little impulse items. They're there saying, buy me. Yep,
exactly. How many people walking around the mall doing window shopping, and that becomes impulse items? It's
exactly.
I hate to go shopping. I mean, if I'm in the market for something, I try to buy it online.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's dangerous too because you get exposed to all this other stuff, and it's easy to click the button, and all of a sudden, and within 3 hours, it's at your front door.
Right. Yeah. And the algorithms know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They'll hit you with other stuff that's related to what you're looking at.
Yep.
And then the other thing is just, set up separate spending accounts, have something or have, I'll share something I personally did. I used to, I'm kind of a personal finance geek. And for many years, I tracked my cash flow down to the penny. And I got to the point where, we're all creatures of habit. We all spend kind of, we have fixed expenses every month. It's not necessary to do that. But I got down to where I had one credit card that I used for my discretionary spending, and I knew if I kept that credit card bill under $1,000 a month, then I had all my financial goals. I had money allocated to that. Everything else was in place.
There you go.
That was my variable. And so having some type of way to have some type of, you don't have to track everything to the penny, but you have to, that variable item in your budget is the one that's the important one. And having an account or having a credit card or, having X number of dollars for that fund money or whatever, then, that's really all that you have to track. So again, going back, and if you're looking at, if you want to create wealth, it's all about the gap, and it's taking that difference between the money that's coming into your household and the money going out, and allocating that towards something that's going to create wealth in the future. Something's going to grow, compound interest, dividends.
And as you know, when we do financial planning, one of the first things we work with the client is to let's figure out what you're spending. And we give them our famous blue form that tracks every expense imaginable, all the way down the termite bond. And more often than not, when people completed that form, they're really amazed or shocked at how much money they're spending throughout the year. And, it's easy to kind of see the big things, but all those little things day in and day out, the subscriptions that we have, the Netflix and the pool care and the lawn care and the dining out and all that stuff, at the end of the year, it really adds up. And so we look at that. What's that? How much is that? Your expenses fixed? How much you have to spend every month on groceries and rent and utilities, and then what's the variable? And that's what you want to be able to look at, what you can use to send on ahead for your retirement. I hear the bumper music there, Josh, so take it away. And I see we had an email question float in from Nina regarding trusts and so forth. We can cover that at the bottom of the break.
This hour was paid for.
Once again, it's one of the top 100 financial advisory firms by CNBC of nearly 40,000. And because they won't divulge the selection criteria, ask my colleagues what they thought.
Maybe it's because our history dates back almost 50 years.
Could be because we're independent. But we custody with national firms like Fidelity and others.
17 CFP professionals under one roof.
Or it could be because we're CFEX certified.
And a real person answers the phone.
In any case, we're proud to have been selected. So if you're looking for financial planning or investment advice for a fee, look us up online. You may be new to the area, but we're not. For more than 40 years, our certified financial planner professionals, acting as fiduciaries and providing retirement planning and asset management for a fee to countless families across Central Florida.
We've been with Certified since 1992.
We're now into the third or fourth generation of clients that have come to CFG and the team here to do a great job.
It's been so long since I've been doing this that I just don't even worry about anything anymore.
We're Certified Financial Group, where we're planning tomorrow, today.
As an investor, you want peace of mind. You need to know that your advisor is not only thoroughly competent, but also a fiduciary. In other words, he or she is acting at all times in your best interests. You need to trust your advisor, regardless of how much money you have to invest or what part of the world you're in. It might not be your money you're entrusting the advisor with. Perhaps you're a board member of a charity or foundation whose future depends on prudent investment. Or perhaps you have the responsibility of making investment decisions on behalf of other people. As the trustee of a retirement plan, the decisions you make can have a direct impact on the lives of your employees. Whatever type of investor you are, the solution is to use an advisor certified by the Center for Fiduciary Excellence. A CFEX certified advisory firm demonstrates its adherence to a global fiduciary standard of excellence, a defined standard with specific criteria covering 21 best practices. The documented, repeatable processes and the evidence-based decision-making that CFEX demands are more likely to generate investment portfolios that match client needs and expectations. And because the firm voluntarily agrees to a rigorous annual audit, investors can rest assured that their advisor continues to work to the highest professional standards. This independent verification is even more critical for trustees and investment committee members of retirement plans who are legally required to conduct regular due diligence on their service providers. Use a CFEX certified firm, and that job has been done already by an expert at no expense to the plan. So why leave anything to chance? Insist on working with investment professionals you can truly trust. Insist on using a CFEX certified advisor.
So you guys don't know Chicago, but I'm sure in your neighborhood you guys have an old school butcher where you walk in and there's a bunch of guys, no gloves, big white aprons, and there's Frank and there's Stevie and there's Mikey. And these guys know more about meat and more about animals and more about cooking the meat than any of us will ever learn. And so you walk in and you say, hey, Lou, I need to, I'm barbecuing this weekend, right? What do you like? And Lou goes to the big racks of stuff he has underneath the glass, and he goes, the veal chops, just in from Argentina, they are the bomb. And you go, veal? Oh, I like veal. Well, what do you got on skirt steak? Oh, we got some great skirt steak. Just came in yesterday from Montana. Skirt steak is one of my favorite, marinated up a little bit. It's fantastic. Lou will never say to you, Elliot, it's a little long on the meat here, big guy. Your cholesterol is getting high. Why don't you go down to the fishmonger a couple blocks and have a nice piece of salmon? Right? He'll never do that. Why? His job is to sell me meat, and I go in, actually the same way I go into the Toyota dealership, because I like Toyotas, and I trust the salesman to sell me a good product if I trust him. And the fact that he's got my interest at heart vis-a-vis my expectations for selling me that thing. By the same token, when I go to see a dietitian, I know she's going to look at all of my labs, she's going to take all the measurements, she's going to run all of her analysis, and she's going to absolutely give me her best thinking on what's best for me. Whether she's a vegetarian or a meat lover, likes this, likes that. If she thinks I should be doing something differently, even if it's not good for her, she's going to give me an opinion that's for my interest. So what's the difference between a fiduciary and the brokers?
On WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. You can also listen live on the WDBO app wherever you are. Today we have Wynn Smith and Joe Bert, and we have an email question from a Miss Nina. She's actually got a string of questions about trust. First one being, who needs to set up a trust and why?
Well, first of all, let's talk about first, let me preface all of this by saying we are not attorneys, but a part of our CFP training is we have to understand what these documents are because our clients will have questions. So Nina has a question here. So who needs to set up a trust and why? Wynn?
Well, I don't know if anyone needs to set up other than maybe a special needs trust. I don't know if you need to set up a trust.
Well, let's talk about the purpose of, and I presume she's talking about, well, there's two kinds of trusts. There's the living trust, revocable, and then the irrevocable. So most people have the revocable or the living trust. So why do people even consider doing that?
I think what people are trying to do is they're trying to eliminate their exposure to probate. They want property to pass without having to go through the probate court. I think that's the main part of it. Maybe privacy is because probate is public record, so you can keep it out of the public record by using a revocable living trust.
Right. So let's define what probate is. Probate is not a tax. A lot of people think it's a tax of some sort. Probate is nothing more than the time and expense that the legal system extracts from you to settle your estate, and that's from attorney's fees and court costs and all that stuff that goes along with it, right?
Yep.
So generally, people that are, unfortunately, I've seen trusts being oversold. Some law firms think everybody needs a trust, needs a living trust. A lot of it can be avoided. A lot of probate can be avoided. In fact, all of it can be avoided if you have your account set up properly. And this is one of the things we focus on at Certified Financial Group when we set up these accounts. Are you single? Are you married? What's your situation? And if you're single people, the best way to avoid that is to either name a beneficiary on the account or have it set up as in trust for or transfer on death. Which means that it automatically avoids probate. So when you pass on, it automatically goes to that person that's designated to get that account, and that avoids probate. And you can do that with your investment accounts, certainly with your retirement accounts, with annuities, life insurance, bank accounts. All that can be set up properly so you can avoid probate. And now having a trust, though, if you have property out of state, that you may want to consider having a trust, because then you're going to have probate in perhaps 2 states, and you want to perhaps put that property in trust and avoid probate in that regard. So that's probably about the only reason I would think about using a trust. And you said, sort of special needs trust, but what we're talking about here are revocable trusts. These are ones that you can change your mind, change the beneficiaries on the trust, cancel it anytime you want. And how often do we see when that people set up trusts but they're empty?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Frequently, too frequently, actually, because why are you doing that if you're not funding the trust?
Exactly. Yeah, they walk out of the attorney's office, think, oh, it's all said and done, but they never put anything in the trust.
Right.
So
yeah.
it's an empty trust. So you said she had 4 questions there, Josh?
Yeah, she also asked, what is the cost to set up a trust?
It depends. You can do these online, which I don't recommend. Most law firms are going to charge you a couple $1,000s to do it. We provide it as a service through a group of attorneys that we work with for our clients, so we can do that for you at no charge for our clients. Once again, we're not attorneys. We don't do the work, but we have an agreement with a group of attorneys that will do that for you. We provide that as a gift for our clients. So it could be 0 or up to a couple $1,000s. Unless you're getting some really elaborate estate planning, then that's going to be a few $1,000s more. And she has a couple more questions. But I see we're at the break, so let's catch it at the bottom of the hour.
If you want to join the question or call in about any other financial questions, dial 844-580-9326 or use the open mic feature in the WDBO app. You're listening to On the Money, where we are planning tomorrow
Today
with the Certified Financial Group.
So you guys don't know Chicago, but I'm sure in your neighborhood you guys have an old school butcher where you walk in and there's a bunch of guys, no gloves, big white aprons, and there's Frank and there's Stevie and there's Mikey. And these guys know more about meat and more about animals and more about cooking the meat than any of us will ever learn. And so you walk in and you say, hey, Lou, I'm barbecuing this weekend, right? What do you like? And Lou goes to the big racks of stuff he has underneath the glass, and he goes, the veal chops, just in from Argentina, they are the bomb. And you go, veal, oh, I like veal. Well, what do you got on skirt steak? Oh, we got some great skirt steak, just came in yesterday from Montana. Skirt steak is one of my favorite, marinated up a little bit, it's fantastic. Lou will never say to you, Elliot, it's a little long on the meat here, big guy, your cholesterol is getting high. Why don't you go down to the fishmonger a couple blocks and have a nice piece of salmon? Right? He'll never do that. Why? His job is to sell me meat, and I go in, actually the same way I go into the Toyota dealership, because I like Toyotas, and I trust the salesman to sell me a good product if I trust him. And the fact that he's got my interest at heart vis-a-vis my expectations for selling me that thing. By the same token, when I go to see a dietitian, I know she's going to look at all of my labs, she's going to take all the measurements, she's going to run all of her analysis, and she's going to absolutely give me her best thinking on what's best for me. Whether she's a vegetarian or a meat lover, likes this, likes that. If she thinks I should be doing something differently, even if it's not good for her, She's going to give me an opinion that's for my interest. So what's the difference between a fiduciary and the brokers? Well, these are dietitians, these are butchers. It's that simple. Brokers are butchers selling product. Fiduciaries are dietitians looking after your health. The problem is most people think that their butcher is a dietitian. So when one of your moms or dads or friends calls the broker and says, you know, I got 200 grand, I sold a little piece of property, or I got some inheritance, what should I do with it? They're going in thinking they're talking to a dietitian, and they're really talking to Lou the butcher.
What is a fiduciary? When it comes to investing, a fiduciary is legally required to act in your best interest. For 40 years, planners at Certified Financial Group have been guiding our local clients toward financial peace of mind. The rest of the world is still catching up, but our team of certified financial planners are the local, experienced fiduciaries you can trust. Certified Financial Group are your Central Florida planners. Call us today.
40 years ago, I had a dream.
CFG has been chosen once again as one of the top 100 financial advisory firms by CNBC of nearly 40,000. And because they won't divulge the selection criteria, asked my colleagues what they thought.
Maybe it's because our history dates back almost 50 years.
Could be because we're independent, but we custody with national firms like Fidelity and others.
17 CFP professionals under one roof.
Or it could be because we're CFEX certified.
And a real person answers the phone.
In any case, we're proud to have been selected. So if you're looking for financial planning or investment advice for a fee, look us up online.
You may be new to the area, but we're not. For more than 40 years, our certified financial planner professionals, acting as fiduciaries and providing retirement planning and asset management for a fee to countless families across Central Florida.
We've been with Certified since 1992.
We're now into the third or fourth generation of clients that have come to CFG and the team here to do a great job.
It's been so long since I've been doing this that I just don't even worry about anything anymore.
We're Certified Financial Group, where we're planning tomorrow, today.
As an investor, you want peace of mind. You need to know that your advisor is not only thoroughly competent, but also a fiduciary. In other words, he or she is acting at all times in your best interests. You need to trust your advisor, regardless of how much money you have to invest or what part of the world you're in. It might not be your money you're entrusting the advisor with. Perhaps you're a board member of a charity or foundation whose future depends on prudent investment. Or perhaps you have the responsibility of making investment decisions on behalf of other people. As the trustee of a retirement plan, the decisions you make can have a direct impact on the lives of your employees. Whatever type of investment
money. Central.
Welcome back to On the Money right here on WDBO. Before the break, we were talking about trust. And if you want to call in and have a little conversation with our certified financial experts here, Wynn Smith and Joe Bert, those numbers are 844-580-9326. Tell us a little more about some trusts, guys.
Yeah, Nina had another question. I remember, Josh. She wanted to know if anybody could set up, or can someone set up a trust on their own, or should you get professional help? Here's the problem with do-it-yourself legal work. I liken it to like packing a parachute. You know, you pack the parachute, you think you're all set to go, you pull the ripcord when it's time to use it, and you find out you didn't do it right. And you can't go back and correct it when you're in midair. And that's true with legal documents that are do-it-yourself. So you can do it yourself. The question is it done right? And sometimes a misplaced comma or semicolon or something can, in fact, change the interpretation. So we don't recommend that. Work with an attorney, work with somebody that can provide you access to attorneys like we do, and get that done the appropriate way. So that's our rule of thumb there, Nina. We hope that answered the questions. But Wynn and I were talking in the break about the various kinds of trusts. We've been talking about the most common one that we see as a living trust, or what's known as a revocable trust. But there are numerous other trusts, right, Wynn?
Oh yeah, there's. I guess I was thinking about other common ones that we see. Sometimes you'll see a testamentary trust, and this is another purpose of a trust is to kind of control money from the grave.
Right.
So you can leave your estate into a trust upon your death, and then you can have the different characteristics of that trust as to how that money can be distributed to your heirs. So maybe it's based upon an heir reaching a certain age, or having some type of milestone in their life, or some type of condition.
Right. So if the assets that you put into the revocable trust are not all dispersed, it can convert into a testamentary trust, as you said. So so that money or that trust lives on beyond your life, and then it's distributed according to whatever your wishes are. And your wishes could be anything that's legal. You know, I've seen it set up for grandchildren, where when the grandchildren reach a certain age, or a certain milestone or something, they get so much, or when they're reach retirement age, they get so much, and the money stays in the trust, hopefully continuing to grow and providing some safety net, if you will. Well, we've heard of trust fund babies. That's where it comes from.
Yep.
Yeah. So what other kinds of trusts are there?
Another trust we used to see a lot, we don't see it so much anymore, is a revocable life insurance trust. Back when estate tax credits were much lower, the most efficient way to pay your estate tax was with the proceeds of life insurance, but the problem was that your life insurance proceeds could be included into your estate, thereby bumping you up into paying more estate taxes. So what a lot of people would do is they would set up a irrevocable life insurance trust and have that own the life insurance policy, and that primary purpose of that policy is to pay the estate taxes, and keeping it in the trust, because a trust is a separate legal entity other than yourself that's not included in your estate. So that's how that works. And all trusts are like that too.
Yeah, most people don't realize or recognize that if you were the owner and the insured on the life insurance policy, even though you're not the beneficiary, but if you're the owner and the insured on the policy, when you pass on, that becomes part of your taxable estate. So depending on your situation, that you're just subjecting those assets to taxation. So that's why you want to set up a life insurance trust, and the trust owns the life insurance policy. You fund the trust every year with a certain amount of money to cover the premium, and when you pass on, those insurance proceeds go into the trust totally tax-free, and then they're distributed to the beneficiary, whoever the beneficiary is of that life insurance trust. So what other kind of trusts we have there?
The other thing you probably see be more common would be charitable remainder trust, and so this is where you're taking money, taking property out of your estate for the purpose of transferring it to charity to get some of the benefits of that. And again, you're having to a trust is, like we said earlier, is a separate legal entity, so you don't have control over that once it goes into the trust, but you do have control over the terms of the trust. So that's a way to take charitable contributions or to benefit from certain property, and then have the remainder of that property passed to a charity upon your death.
So once again, if you've got appreciated property, and in the event that you sold it, you'd have some substantial gains to pay. But what you're looking for is income for the rest of your life. I've done this for clients in the past. You take that asset, whatever it is, could be stocks, it could be real estate, it could be business interest, whatever it might be. You put it in the trust, and then the trust sells the property, and then it'll provide you with income for your lifetime. And it's because it's a charity, you get a charitable deduction, and the deduction is a function of how much income you want it, when you want it, and your age, and so on and so forth. But it's a way to minimize taxes and to provide yourself with income for the rest of your life. So all those things are available to you. And it's what Wynn and I and the 15 other certified financial planners are schooled in as CFPs. This is what we understand, and we look for those opportunities with our clients. If you have any interest in what Wynn and I and the 15 other CFPs do day in and day out, providing retirement planning and investment management for a fee, go to our website. That's financialgroup.com. That's financialgroup.com. And I see you have a call there, Josh, so take it away. Joyce, I see Joyce. Are you there, Joyce?
I'm here.
I can barely hear you, but go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Wow. What I wanted to know was, I have a revocable trust.
Okay.
However, I was told that if I went into a nursing home before dying, obviously, and spent several years there, which my mother did, are they allowed to take the bank account funds to support my staying there?
In most cases, yes. The revocable trust is not going to prevent your assets from being covered for your medical expense. And the reason being is because your revocable trust, you can revoke it at any time. That money is always yours. That really only comes into play when you pass on and what beneficiaries you want to designate. So a revocable trust is not going to prevent Medicaid charges, right?
Yeah.
Will
An irrevocable
will?
Yeah, an irrevocable will, but what you're doing is you're giving away the assets. So you no longer control them. And then this is where you want to deal with an elder care attorney that knows what he or she is doing in that regard. It can be done, but once again, you're giving up the assets in order to protect those assets, and you no longer control them. So you got to be very, very careful there.
Okay, when you say I no longer control them, so you're saying my trustee, like my son, has control? If I want something out of the bank, I have to ask him?
The trust, that's correct. Your trustee controls it. It's no longer yours, and that's what. And by irrevocable means once that's done, it's irrevocable. You can't change it. So you want to think long and hard before you go down that path.
Okay.
And usually when those trusts are set up, they're the beneficiary of that trust. There's typically verbiage that specifies for the welfare, benefit, education. So I think that needing medical care would probably be a reason to get into that trust anyway, because I'm assuming you'd still want to be the beneficiary, even though it's irrevocable.
Yeah, this is not do-it-yourself time, Joyce. If you're considering that, I would suggest you meet with an elder care attorney. We can put you in touch with one. But this is something, once again, there's no free lunch. People think they're going to avoid the cost of long-term health care by giving all their assets away, but the key is you're giving your assets away. And then when you do that, you really become indigent and you become a ward of the state. Yes. And then you end up in these nursing homes that you wouldn't want to walk into. And this is why you need to make these provisions early on. And we're having a workshop about this coming up 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from today, Charles Curry is doing it.
Yeah.
Talking about Medicare and all that kind of stuff. So if you want more information about that, go to our website. That's financialgroup.com, and you can get a ticket to the show at 10 o'clock on Saturday.
Yep, it's 10 to 11:30 on March the 21st. It's Getting Long-Term Care Planning Right, Smart Approaches for People at All Stages. And again, it's hosted by Charles Curry here at our Learning Center at CFG World Headquarters.
In Altamont Springs. So, Joyce, if you're interested, we hope to see you there.
Yeah, and one thing, too.
You're welcome, Joyce. Thanks for the call.
One other last thing, now it's a 5-year look back, too, as to what assets you transfer in qualifying.
That's correct.
For Medicaid.
Yeah, so you can't, if you're one step away from the nursing home, you can't do this planning because there's a look back. They've got it figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
Right.
And rightfully so.
Right.
All right. Any other touches on trust there before we move on?
The only thing was a special needs trust. We're seeing a lot of that. I mean, if you've got a child who qualifies for some type of benefits due to special needs, a lot of times if you pass your estate, going to that child will bump them out of qualifying for some of those benefits. So if you do the special needs planning, which typically involves a trust, you can keep the eligibility for your child for whatever programs they're available for.
Yep. So those are legal documents. Once again, we are not attorneys. We understand what they are. We will put you in touch with the attorneys that can handle that for you. And look forward to seeing you in our office. Okay, I see we have a text question floating there. Josh, you want to read that?
Yeah, we have a text question from John in College Park. He says, I turned 73 this year, and I know that I can make my RMD this year or wait next year and take 2 RMDs. When is waiting a good idea?
Okay.
Well, RMD, requirement distribution, which we have to take out of our pre-tax money. When is waiting a good? I I would guess waiting might be a good idea if you wanted to get one more year of tax deferred growth. But the problem a lot of people get into is those required minimum distributions could possibly bump them up into a higher tax bracket, or could possibly increase their Medicare premium.
Right. And this is where planning comes in.
Yeah, and if you don't need the money, I guess that would be the other factor too. If you don't need to take that distribution for income, if you could defer, I would guess waiting another year for tax deferred growth wouldn't be bad, as long as it did not bump you up into some of those other things.
Right. With our software, we can show you the impact of taking that money out, and you don't have to take it all out. I mean, you can.
That's true. That's a good point.
You can take
partial, do a partial.
Do a partial.
Yeah.
So once again, at age 73, you have to make that first withdrawal by December 31st. However, you can defer that first year up until April 1st of the following year. So once again, you could you don't have to take it out on December 31st. You can defer that until April 1st the following year.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the options. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't see people doing that though too often. Do you, Joe?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends on what on your own personal situation, what your other sources of income are. But once again, you have that flexibility, and just want to make our listeners aware of it. I see you got another question there, Josh.
Yeah, we have Judy from Winter Springs asking, with all that is going on, should I be switching my investments to gold to protect my wealth?
Judy. No.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. I was trying to think about it.
in one word, no.
I mean, gold historically has been like a source. They talk about what being a rush to security and some of that, and maybe an inflation hedge. But first of all, you don't want to put all your money in one bucket.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the first thing. That's just a no to begin with.
Right.
Gold. The other thing you don't want to do too is you don't want to make an emotional decision. You don't want to react to something, because just by human nature, we'll buy high and we'll sell low. And right now, gold's pretty high. Now, will it go higher? Who knows? Will it go lower? Who knows? But yeah, I think
I wouldn't commit more than 5% of your assets to it. I'm glad that question came up, though, because the taxation of gold.
Good point. Yes.
Or gold or silver mutual funds that hold. I'm not talking about gold or silver mining stocks, but I'm talking about actual funds that hold those things. They're taxed differently than regular investments. You don't get that 20% capital gains, as high as 28%.
That's right. That's a good point. A lot of people don't realize that.
Depending on your overall tax situation, it could be as high as 28% as opposed to 20%. So you want to be aware of that as well. So that's a little.
And physical gold does have some downfall. It doesn't pay you interest. It doesn't pay you dividends.
Right.
You've got storage cost.
Right.
So it's not the best place for.
Yeah, and what you want to stay away from is the numismatic stuff, the collector's coins, because that's a very, very specialized area. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to end up getting burned. I hear the bumper music. Josh, take it away.
We're up against a break, but if you want to call in, we've got open lines for you. Be the first in line to get your questions answered by certified financial planners Wynn Smith and Joe Bert. That number to call is 844-580-9326. You're listening to On the Money, where we're planning tomorrow.
Today.
With the certified financial.
So you guys don't know Chicago, but I'm sure in your neighborhood you guys have an old school butcher where you walk in and there's a bunch of guys, no gloves, big white aprons, and there's Frank and there's Stevie and there's Mikey. And these guys know more about meat and more about animals and more about cooking the meat than any of us will ever learn. And so you walk in and you say, hey, Lou, I'm barbecuing this weekend, right? What do you like? And Lou goes to the big racks of stuff he has underneath the glass, and he goes, the veal chops, just in from Argentina, they are the bomb. And you go, veal? Oh, I like veal. What do you got on skirt steak? Oh, we got some great skirt steak. Just came in yesterday from Montana. Skirt steak is one of my favorite, marinated up a little bit. It's fantastic. Lou will never say to you, Elliot, It's a little long on the meat here, big guy. Your cholesterol is getting high. Why don't you go down to the fishmonger a couple blocks and have a nice piece of salmon? Right? He'll never do that. Why? His job is to sell me meat, and I go in, actually the same way I go into the Toyota dealership, because I like Toyotas, and I trust the salesman to sell me a good product if I trust him. And the fact that he's got my interest at heart vis-a-vis my expectations for selling me that thing. By the same token, when I go to see a dietitian, I know she's going to look at all of my labs, she's going to take all the measurements, she's going to run all of her analysis, and she's going to absolutely give me her best thinking on what's best for me. Whether she's a vegetarian or a meat lover, likes this, likes that, if she thinks I should be doing something differently, even if it's not good for her, she's going to give me an opinion that's for my interest. So what's the difference between a fiduciary and the brokers? Well, these are dietitians, these are butchers. It's that simple. Brokers are butchers selling product. Fiduciaries are dietitians looking after your health. The problem is most people think that their butcher is a dietitian. So when one of your moms or dads or friends calls the broker and says, you know, I got 200 grand, I sold a little piece of property, or I got some inheritance, what should I do with it? They're going in thinking they're talking to a dietitian, and they're really talking to Lou the butcher.
What is a fiduciary? When it comes to investing, a fiduciary is legally required to act in your best interest. For 40 years, planners at Certified Financial Group have been guiding our local clients toward financial peace of mind. The rest of the world is still catching up, but our team of certified financial planners are the local, experienced fiduciaries you can trust. Certified Financial Group are your Central Florida planners. Call us today.
40. CFG has been chosen once again as one of the top 100 financial advisory firms by CNBC of nearly 40,000. And because they won't divulge the selection criteria, ask my colleagues what they thought.
Maybe it's because our history dates back almost 50 years.
Could be because we're independent, but we custody with national firms like Fidelity and others.
17 CFP professionals under one roof.
Or it could be because we're CFEX certified.
And a real person answers the phone.
In any case, we're proud to have been selected. So if you're looking for financial planning or investment advice for a fee, look us up online. You may be new to the area, but we're not. For more than 40 years, our certified financial planner professionals, acting as fiduciaries and providing retirement planning and asset management for a fee to countless families across Central Florida.
We've been with Certified since 1992.
We're now into the third or fourth generation of clients that have come to CFG and the team here to do a great job.
It's been so long since I've been doing this that I just don't even worry about anything anymore.
We're Certified Financial Group, where we're planning tomorrow, today.
As an investor, you want peace of mind. You need to know that your advisor is not only thoroughly competent, but also a fiduciary. In other words, he or she is acting at all times in your best interests. You need to trust your advisor, regardless of how much money you have to invest or what part of the world you're in. It might not be your money you're entrusting the advisor with. Perhaps you're a board member of a charity or foundation whose future depends on prudent investment. Or perhaps you have the responsibility of making investment decisions on behalf of other people. As the trustee of a retirement plan, the decisions you make can have a direct impact on the lives of your employees. Whatever type of investor you are, the solution is to use an advisor certified by the Center for Fiduciary Excellence. A C
WDBO. I'm talking with Wynn Smith and Joe Bert, and we have got a text question coming in here. And Toby from Titusville asks, is it now a good time to put money in energy stocks?
Energy stocks. What do you
That's
think,
kind of
Wynn?
that's kind of a broad category. I don't know if Toby's talking about like oil and gas companies or green energy or
energy equipment suppliers
or utility companies.
I think part of it, well, once again, you're dealing with a specific sector.
Yep.
And I don't like to make sector bets because you're anticipating that you know where that specific sector is going. I'd rather have that as part of a diversified portfolio. So my feeling is, unless you really, really understand that industry, don't do it.
And I don't know, maybe Toby's maybe he's concerned about what's going on in the Middle East and the price of oil and gas.
Sure.
Maybe that's where that's coming from.
Sure.
I did notice this this week, Joe's. We're looking at oil and gas futures. I actually learned a new word I had not been exposed to before. It's called backwardation, and that's in the futures market where the short-term contracts carry a higher premium than the long-term contracts. So I guess what the market is telling us is that they think that the run-up in oil that's going on now is going to be short-term. It's not going to be ongoing. So
backwardation.
Yeah, backwardation.
There
And
you
I had
go.
never seen that before.
There you go. There you go.
Now, the other thing, in terms of I totally agree with you, Joe, about a diversified portfolio. Now, there is a lot of talk about with artificial intelligence and the data centers and the power consumption that they need, that is a growth sector of the economy. But again, having that diversification, because who knows whether that's going to be, what are you looking at? You're looking at utility companies. You may be looking at green energy. You may be looking at oil and gas. You may nuclear. I mean, who knows how we're going to meet those demands and the suppliers that are involved with the grid. I mean, there's just a lot going on there. So that diversification is the way to go.
And it's changing rapidly.
Exactly.
Changing very rapidly.
Exactly.
Well, I see we're getting close to the top of the hour. Let me mention a couple of things. First of all, another workshop we have coming up. We alluded to this a little while ago. 2 weeks from today, Charles Curry is doing one. What's that about, Wynn?
It's the title is Getting Long-Term Care Planning Right, Smart Approaches for People at All Stages.
And that is absolutely free. It'll be 10 o'clock at our offices up here in Altamont Springs, 10 to 11:30. You can go to our website. That's financialgroup.com. Make your reservation there. This is a very popular one because people get Medicare and Medicaid confused. What does each cover? What does it cost? And what to look out for? And the other thing I want to mention is Score My Funds. If you have mutual funds or ETFs in your brokerage account or your retirement accounts, go to scoremyfunds.com. That's scoremyfunds.com. You'll be asked to put in the ticker. If you don't know the ticker, there's a pull-down menu. You can get your stuff analyzed right there by the Center for Fiduciary Studies. Is what we use in our investment committee to analyze every investment that we recommend to our clients. And it'll give you a little preview as to how we do it. So that's scoremyfunds.com. We'll get you a free report within 48 hours. And Josh, it's been good being with you this weekend, buddy.
Well, it's been great being with you, Wynn and Joe. Thank you so much for joining us on the show here on WDBO. And if a question popped into your head, fear not. Leave an open mic for us in the WDBO app, and we'll get to you guys next week.
Dave Bellachristian at 407-869-9800. He's still here.
You're listening to On the Money, where we're planning tomorrow.
Today.
With a Certified Financial Group.